continue our conversation with Rob Otto, West Point grad, former Army infantry officer, qualified. He's got airborne on his lapel, jumps out of perfectly good airplanes, also Ranger qualified. But in the here and now, you are trained as a therapist, and you deal with family counseling and obviously with those who've been involved in the military with post-traumatic stress disorder. Is there a face of PTSD, or does it differ from patient to patient?
There's a lot of commonalities. There are arousal symptoms, hypervigilance. There are re-experiencing symptoms of flashbacks, and there are isolation. There's commonality to it, but you can't put one face on it. It can be different for different people.
Well, now, are these soldiers, would you say, reluctant often to speak out about what's going on?
Absolutely, because they see it as a sign of weakness often. If I ask for help, it's a sign of weakness. But in reality, if there's more enemy coming at me than I have bullets to shoot, I'm going to ask for a lot of help from my friends. I'm going to ask for artillery and helicopters and fast movers. I'll bring every asset to bear on that enemy. And in this fight, it's an enemy that's bigger than one person can bear to. And really, it's a sign of a wise warrior to bring every asset to bear on this particular issue as well.
How effective have outreach programs to our veterans been to have them think in the way you're suggesting about being part of a team, getting help from your comrades, and dealing with PTSD?
I think it's an ongoing challenge, and I think that there will never be enough work done in that to remove the issue.
Well, now tell us, what can friends and loved ones do to help with PTSD?
If they spot somebody who's got a challenge, or if they're feeling it themselves, because secondary PTSD, a lot of family members and friends will experience similar symptoms to somebody dealing with PTSD. If they spot that, if they think there's something going on, ask for help. This is not a journey to walk alone. It's a journey to get some help with a counselor, with a chaplain, with friends who are safe, who maybe have worn boots and painted their face green and understand those issues as well.
Got about 2:30 left in our time together, all too brief, but you mentioned something right there about family and friends, and I think is it a secondary PSD or almost an echo effect in response?
Right, absolutely. If something was going on in my life and I didn't want to talk about it with my wife, she might feel, what's wrong with me? And then she would start to feel isolation in our relationship. And that's just one example of how the family members can feel similar symptoms to what a soldier might feel. And PTSD is not just for soldiers alone, it's for civilians who've experienced trauma as well.
Now, when we're looking at this, and again, about a couple of minutes remain, I'm just very curious about the stress on the home front. Mm-hmm. You know, because we know the dangers. It's apparent when someone goes into a theater of war. But what happens on the home front, and what should we be looking for there? Minute 30.
Well, if I come back and I'm dealing with difficult issues in my life and I don't want to talk about them, and I'm always jumpy and I'm hypervigilant and I can't sleep and I isolate and I might medicate with alcohol or drugs, that certainly affects everybody in my home. And they're going to have some of those similar symptoms, and they're going to look at their own lives and have challenges. So families need to get help as well. And there's some resources that are very good. The Combat Trauma Healing Manual is a very, very helpful workbook for soldiers. There's a similar manual written by a Navy SEAL's wife, 25 years in the Navy SEALs, and he was dealing with PTSD, and she wrote a book called When War Comes Home. Very helpful, good places to start.
I was just going to ask you about resources and guidelines, just advice for people that might be dealing with this at home.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't walk the journey alone. First thing they did at Ranger School was to issue a Ranger Buddy to us. They do that for a reason. Get a Ranger Buddy, get somebody who's safe, talk about it. The last thing these guys want to do is talk about it, but that's the best thing they can do with a safe person.
And Rob Otto, if someone's watching this would like more information directly from you, is there a website they can go to?
Sure, they can go to SpanishRiver.com, SpanishRiver.com.
And that way they can find out.
That's the counseling center I work at.
And it's been an interesting journey for you. 30 seconds to remain. Why the transition from the military to counseling?
Great question. I saw families falling apart in my unit in the military. We had a 25% divorce rate in one 12-month period in peacetime. And I got into family therapy because I wanted to make a difference in the lives of those families, and we've been able to do that with military families around the country.
Fair enough. Rob Otto, it's been quite a journey from West Point to Army officer and now to licensed therapist. Rob Otto, PhD, thanks for your time. And America's Forum will continue after this here on Newsmax TV.